Welcome to Rock That Relationship, a podcast about all things relationship with Corey and Tracy.
Now let's get real and start creating relationships that rock.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Rock That Relationship. We're back with another awesome episode in our Unstuck series. Today we are talking about letting go, because sometimes, we are not stuck because other people stick us. We are stuck because we stick ourselves, and we've talked a little bit about that. But today we're going to talk about really how do you emotionally let go of things so you can move through the process of getting unstuck. So how are you feeling about our topic today, Tracy?
You know how I'm feeling because we've talked about it prior to this. I currently got kicked to the curb by someone, and that was on Monday, and it is now Thursday. And so you said I had 3 days to get over it, and I'm not quite over it. And I am running things over and over and over in my head.
Okay.
Could I have done something different? Did I say something? Did I do something? How could it be? Because this happened and then that happened, and the last interaction that we had was super positive. So I don't understand what happened. And I'm not saying I perceived it as super positive. It was texted to me that it was super positive and that the person adored me. And that was at 10:09 a.m. And then at 5:06 or 5:09 p.m., I was completely kicked to the curb. And so
what did I tell you this morning?
What
did I tell you this morning when we were hiking when you said, should I have done something different?
Well, we don't want to get into specifics about this person, but you listed off this kind of crazy stuff this person had done and said, oh yeah, could you have fixed this? Could you fix that? Could you have fixed this about her?
And I said, no, I think it was just the one text. I think you should have just worded that one text differently and none of this would have happened.
You're right. But
that's not true.
Even when there are things that happen between people or in jobs, there should be repair. There should be discussion and repair, right? So even if somebody was upset about something, that's the thing. I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is when you don't have answers. And then We've talked about this before. If you don't have closure and someone just ghosts you or sends you a message saying, I am about to ghost you. I don't want to ever talk to you again, even though I just told you I adore you. Your mind can't accept that. It's very the only way to accept it, I think, is personally for me is through Buddhist stuff and past life. This must have something to do, or that socially people are not capable of people people having difficulties these days, having connection, or have they always? And now it's just more stark.
Right. Well, what you're doing is you're rationalizing the ambiguity so that it will sit better with you. Because that's the thing. We sit in a state of ambiguity a lot. We actually had a really great episode where we talked with Nadine, and Nadine said, reiterated what we've been saying, which is the only person to give you closure is you, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of times we still sit in things waiting for answers that in many cases we'll never get. I have so many weird things that have happened in my life. You know about them, and I never got answers, and they were just so there's no explanation.
So hurtful, and right.
Yeah, I've had several of these, and it's and you've asked me gosh, you've been hurt a lot by a lot of people. I'm I know, and I don't. And the worst part about it is not having answers, and then sitting, either trying to figure it out, trying to maybe blame myself, or just thinking I can't move on until I have the answers. And then I realize that this doesn't help me. So I work through my process because you got to sit in it for a little bit, but then you got to get out of it, or else you're just going to.
So you work through your process, meaning you process it, you discuss it, you go over and over in your mind. But then what? What?
Then you have to shift your thinking, right? You have to shift your thinking. So let's talk about the process of letting go, and then we can get more into the details of how to do it, because I really think that the process helps us understand that sometimes, depending on where we're stuck in the stuck process, we need to do different things, right? Right now, you're kind of stuck in this thinking, and you know what? You're rightfully so. It's fresh. But if you come back to me in 2 years and you talk about this, you were literally,
I could
you were
talk
literally
about
messaging
it
with this lady for 2 weeks. But if you're still talking about this in 2 years.
We were FaceTiming for 4 hours a night. It's here's the thing I want to talk about, because people say, oh my God, online dating is so awful. But it's only awful in that you get to know somebody maybe virtually. And now this isn't like a catfish situation where who knows who was on the other end. I mean, I saw this person's house. I spent a lot of time talking to this person face to face. So it's not just we messaged or talked on the phone. This would have been as if we were spending time together in person. It just so happened to be over FaceTime. So I think that that was a lot of deep connection. And people wouldn't say the same if I said, well, we went out, 7 times for 4 hours at a time. That's 28 hours already, right? So that is a lot of time to spend with another person.
Right. And that's why you need to sit in this for a little bit. But it was still only a matter of 2 weeks. Say the two of you went on a 2-week vacation. You fell madly in love with each other. If you're still processing this in 2 years, then that's a you thing. You need to work through that, because that's tricky. I mean, there's no timeline for letting go, but at the same time, if it is impeding in your ability to move forward with other life functions because you're either fixated on it, you're beating yourself up about it or whatever.
Nothing impedes me, but it does impede a lot of people. And I just watched a video about that this morning. Like, I won't let somebody defeat me. I won't let their behavior or their lack of closure or, being kicked to the curb. I'm not going to let that defeat me. I'm not going to let it stop me from meeting other people. I've already met other people because I was interested in dating. So if this person isn't, and they're going to do this kind of, ghosting, which I think is really not a nice thing to do. I'm not going to let that, yes, it's still going to rattle around in my head, but I'm not going to let it affect my life. And so if people are stuck in their, they can't get out of bed, they're so depressed, that's when you need extra help, because I will bring this up in 2 years.
I mean,
I will bring this up in 2 years. But as long as
you're not so fixated on it that it's the only conversation we have in 2 years.
Right. But some people are like that, and that's what's really hard for their life, right?
And that's debilitating. And it is. And I don't want to tell anyone, you shouldn't be crying about this. But I've said this on the podcast before. When I was going through a breakup a while back, I went to this support circle, and there was a lady crying, and she said, I'm just so upset that we got divorced. And somebody later on made the reference that she had been coming for 8 years. Her ex-husband, I think he had remarried and had children. And so I thought, the only thing that this is hurting is her. And she's got to get some more help other than the support circle, because nobody wants to live like that.
Right. I mean, get the help. It's very hard to let go. But I'll tell you, in my process, like I said, this occurred to me on Monday. It's now Thursday. I immediately got my psychic involved, and she gave me some very good information, and a therapist and my friends, right? Because when something like that happens to you, where either you're rejected by somebody or you're fired or something, you tend to take it all on yourself, and that you're a terrible person, or you're not desirable, or you're all of these things. And then you're supposed to then go out and get another job, or get, see somebody else, or then you think, oh, I'm not worthy of a relationship, when that's not true at all, right? I mean, unless you are the perpetrator of all these things, unless you are the one that's out there being a jerk.
Right.
You got to get help, I think. I always get help. I do feel like my life, and my older sister said this to me, and she was very sympathetic and nice to me. And she said, you have so many good friends. Your life is so rich. And we talked about this the other day. She's straight. So she, her husband isn't like what a woman is for me, right? A support of all these other things. And so she gets that from her friends, but that's not enough for me, because I am attracted to women, and I want a woman that's my partner. So, it is hard, and it's hard for my sister and some of my friends sometimes, because they view that partner as just another girlfriend to hang out with, but that's not what it is. Right. And so, yeah, I can have 1,000 friends, which I do have a lot of really close friends, but I still want that relationship. And if I fall in love with someone, or I think I'm falling in love with them, it's for different reasons than what I care about my friends for.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you have a deep connection with someone. It didn't go the way you wanted. So now you're kind of stuck trying to think, okay, a little bit about what went wrong, what went off the rails. Did I do something? I mean, so think about this. When we get stuck for a couple different reasons. One, and this is one you and I talked about this morning on our hike, is past mistakes or expectations. This idea of did I make a mistake? Did I have too high of expectations? What happened? Sometimes we get stuck because we we regret something, and then we have this regret, and then we don't see it through, or we don't mitigate it or whatever. And then we're stuck in this idea that we regret. Well, just go do it. Like, don't regret it. Just go do it. And if the opportunity's passed, go do something else or let go of that regret. This one.
I wanted to make a comment about that in relation to relationships, right? Which is, our whole thing is rock that relationship. Healthy relationships require communication. And like, I don't care if you've only known someone for 2 weeks, but if you spend all this time FaceTiming with them, if you gave them all of this emotional energy, then have the ability to have a conversation about these things rather than just ghost the person or, put up a wall or block them or whatever it is you're doing. Like, give that person the courtesy. And
Right.
I think that would help a lot of people to move, forward. I think a lot of people are stuck because they didn't get the closure. Now, it's one thing if you've gone over and over and over and that person's like, I cannot do this processing anymore. This is done. That's different. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about people who don't give you that opportunity to even, discuss or have that. And I think that's harder. And yeah, you could have a friend like role play, or you could have a friend that gives you a list of things. It's like, okay, well, what did I say to do this morning? At first I was like, your reverse psychology is not going to work on me. But then I was like, oh, well, your reverse psychology actually makes more sense because there were all these other things. Like, I'm here going through one list, but there's also another list, right?
Right.
Like, I'm going through my list of what could I have done wrong, but then you from the outside are seeing like, how was I treated? And you can point that out where I can't see that right now. You know?
That's the part where you have to like figure out how to give yourself closure, because here's the deal. Yes, if you're listening to this and you have done something in which whatever, even if you rightfully had the reason to end something, fire somebody if you're a supervisor, or break up with somebody, unless it was a toxic or a dangerous situation, it's just courteous to give people a reason. It just is.
Well, not even just a reason, a conversation about it.
Well, a conversation, or at least a reason. I would be fine with a reason. But my point is that that's just basic common courtesy. But the second part of it is that most people don't give that to us. So we have to give that to ourselves. So instead of being upset that the other person didn't give us these reasons, these answers, these conversations, which I know is the first stage of kind of dealing with this, but it's giving it to ourselves. It's giving it, it's talking with your friends like you're doing, Tracy. It's giving it to yourself. I have had so little closure in my life on most every major thing that has ever happened to me. I've had so many breakups where I don't know why they happened. I've had friendships that have ended with no explanation. I've been fired from jobs with not jobs, but, let go for reasons that didn't make any sense. Like, and at the end of the day, I just have to learn to live with that. Like, it's not courteous. It's not respectful. I don't think so. I don't do that with people at all. But on the flip side, it happens to me all the time. So I got to get thick skin, or and move on, or else I'm going to be stuck.
Well, I like to look at that in your life as past life stuff. Like, it had to happen so that you could move forward, right? Or, not even past life, like the universe intervening to move you forward to the next stage of your journey. Right. And maybe that's what, for me, in my life, the difficulties have always been relationship stuff. Like, I'm seeking something, but then I'm seeking it in a wrong place. And so in this particular circumstance, I did get a list. I got a list of reasons, but none of them made sense. It didn't make sense based on what had happened just 4 or 6 hours earlier, right? And so then you're left like, this doesn't make sense. But like I tell my clients, who are getting divorced, you can't, if that other person won't act with logic, you can't force logic on the situation. So I have to tell myself the same thing. Right. I just have to live with this. It is what happened. And I just have to accept it, no matter how painful, and then find other ways, to move forward and let it go. But it is very hard to let it go.
It is very hard. And so let's talk about some of the reasons why people don't let things go. So let me go through all of them, and then I want you to tell me in this circumstance, which one sticks out to you the most, okay? Mm-hmm. All right? So some of the reasons people don't let go is insecurity. They're scared about what's ahead. Right. So this may be someone who's afraid of quitting their job because they're scared that they don't know, it's questionable, ambiguous, or they don't want to break up for that reason. People don't let go because they don't want to change their vision. They say, this isn't what I planned for. We hear this with people who get divorced after 30 years. Like, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, all of a sudden I'm in this, and now I don't know what my vision will be because this isn't what my reality is. The third one is people don't let go because they're afraid of, if for relationships, being alone. They're scared they're going to be isolated. Or if you're if you're in an employment situation, you're afraid of leaving your job because you might be unemployed forever. This idea of that you're just never going to fill that spot in your life again, or you're never going to be employed in a way that feels as good as what you have it. Another reason is failure. We talked about this, right? Like you don't let go because you couldn't fix it, no matter how hard you tried, and you're kind of beating yourself up. And this one is really interesting. Actually, I read this in an article. It's this concept of called topping out. A lot of times we stay stuck in something, particularly like a relationship or even a job, because we think it can never get better than this. So I'm just going to sit here because I don't think it'll ever get better than this. And then the last one is chase for happily ever after. Like I thought this would be my happily ever after, and now I don't know if I can find it. So now I'm going to I'm just going to sit here and say I'll never find it, and that I'll stick myself in this situation of not looking for my dream job or my dream person because the chase for happily ever after was just a fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about why people don't let go. So each of these is different, right? If you don't let go because you're scared about what's ahead, then that has to do with building confidence, right? But if you're not letting go like me because of failure, fear of failure, and we've talked about it like with reputation, that's a totally different situation and how I would handle that letting go. What
Right.
about you why, for instance, are you not letting go of this situation with this particular dating arrangement?
It's so painful. I feel very hurt. And also I feel blindsided. I think when people feel blindsided, right? It's much harder to let go. I mean, blindsiding is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I was very invested in a short amount of time, and we've talked about this in other seasons, like in respect to relationships. If you're going to start a relationship or whatever, you have to invest emotionally and you have to be vulnerable, but that puts you in a very vulnerable position as well. And so it's a real tightrope. And that's the thing is like some of my other friends said to me, like, you really put yourself out there, like you're setting yourself up to be hurt, and they're more like fearful and won't do that. And they're like, you engage with the world so much that it's just more likely this is going to happen. And so during the entire encounter with this person, I was telling myself, do not get attached, do not get attached, do not get attached, right? This could end poorly. But it's like, you can't help it. And when you really care about someone, even if you don't know them, like one of my ex-girlfriends was like, you have to know somebody for years. And I said, I didn't know you for years before we dated. It's not like we waited for years to get together. Like we literally went out on a date and that was it. We became girlfriends. You know what I mean? So like I said that to her. I'm like, we were together for 8 years. So like, I didn't have years to get to know you. That doesn't even make sense. Like, but she's now, she's been married for a long time, and she does not put herself out there,
Well, and I mean, that's the thing you're talking about too is, letting go while you're in the midst of heartbreak is really hard. And sometimes it's just too soon, right? Like you have to feel the feeling. So it's okay to do that. I think the letting go process, it's the part that, helps you get unstuck is if you're stuck in that process, right? You're stuck in that rumination. You're stuck in that for a long time.
A couple of years ago, my best friend said, if you say that one more time, I miss her in that whiny plaintive voice, I'm going to come down there and slap you. Like I was stuck, over somebody like for so long.
You were stuck with them. You were stuck with that hurt for longer than you were together.
Yeah. Well, that messed me up. It really messed me up because
there's no
cared.
judgment. There's no judgment on it. It's just that's a painful place to be for an extended period of time. So if there's a way to move through it, like that would be beneficial, right?
Well, okay. So I try. I mean, I really try. That one was harder because it came on the heels of another huge loss in my life. And so that was harder for me to move forward. This one will be easier. I mean, I'm almost done. Like it's Thursday. I'll be over it.
Okay. So how are you letting go? How have you been letting go of this?
Well, I am going over and over in my head. And then I'm like, gosh, that behavior was so inconsistent. The things that she texted me were so inconsistent. Like, Tracy, look back at that. Like, did that raise red flags from you? And honestly, be honest with yourself, Tracy. Didn't you see these red flags from day one? Yes, Tracy, I did. And so I sit here and talk to myself, and I saw those red flags, And I ignored them because she was super hot and she was so sweet and nice and kind and beautiful. And I ignored them. And I did it to my own peril. I have to have a come to Jesus talk with myself. I mean, that's the truth. I saw it. I saw what other people saw. I saw it. And so, but I didn't care at that moment because I was so attracted to her. I was attracted to her essence. I was attracted to her beauty. I was attracted to how incredibly sweet she was, but she was telegraphing the entire time what she was going to do to me, you know? And so that's my fault. And so if I have a come to Jesus talk, I'm doing it with myself. And it, you know, it scares my dogs because suddenly I'm just like, it's like I'm talking to her out loud in the house. Like, no, I don't want to see you again. No, I don't want to talk to you, you know? And so I guess that's the process I have to go through, is to work through that with myself. I mean, yes, conversations with friends help, and therapy helped. And honestly, our psychic, who, you know, if anyone's interested, reach out because I'll give you her info. She's been right on about everything. And she told me stuff that she could not ever have known. And it made so much sense. So wherever we have to go to find sense. And so I guess when I get sad, it's because I forgot what the psychic said. And so I go back and look at my notes, but like, it's hard. It's hard being in this world. I'm going to start crying now because every day is just hard. And, you know, I think like a couple weeks ago, I was in Thailand, happy as could be. And this I didn't even know this person. This person wasn't even a thought in my head. And then I'm like, how can I let somebody get to me so quickly? But it's because I become invested. I like really care about other people, but I don't think they have that same concern. I mean, some people do. And I've had friends that I've been friends with forever, you know, since college and before. And so it's not like I don't have people in my life, but I don't know.
But I mean, you're talking about something really important. This idea of it's harder to let go when you've held on so tight. Like the fact that you invest and you're vulnerable and you're deep and you go there and you love hard. I do the same thing. And I've been told like, yeah, and then you're going to hurt more. You're going to have more pain. You're going to have more loss. You're going to, you know, so some of these things where I talked about how I've been stuck after, not stuck really, but I've been ghosted and I've had a lot of things. Those to maybe the average person would just be like, that's just that person.
Right.
For me, I was like so heartbroken with each of these different things. And it's because I show up like that. And you do too. And the reality is that you could potentially get very, very hurt if you love very, very hard. But that's a risk I am willing to take because I'd rather go through this kind of pain and suffering for a short period of time to feel the way I feel when I love big, right? And you love big.
Maybe one day it'll work out.
Right, exactly. And,
you know,
like, so if we're talking about how to let go, it's because the harder it is to let go sometimes is because you were holding on tighter, right? And some people don't hold on tight and they just move along and it's like, peace out.
They sure do. Ghosters and avoidance, which all ghosters are probably avoidance. But it's true. Yeah. Those people detach so quickly. It is very disturbing and sad. And I think it's sad for them too. And that also makes me sad. Like, as a human being, it's like, who are we in this world with? What are half these people doing here? I mean, I'm here to have relationships, you know? And I've never been perfect at them. Like, I make a lot of mistakes, but it's like, why don't you just try?
Right. Well, that's the thing is you and I talked earlier about if we could just find a group of people that navigated the world sort of like we did, where you love hard, you show up, you're very honest and you're open and you communicate and you're vulnerable and you create deep attachments with people and then you have respectful communication. You know, I wish that there was like a screening process in life for that, where those of us could just get together and on our own little island because
we are going to create that because, you know, in this week alone we met Nadine and we met that person hiking this morning, truly authentic people who know how to talk, who are vulnerable. Like we met someone hiking this morning. She didn't have to be vulnerable with us, but because she was, it actually turned out helping her a lot. You know, and she's going through something extremely painful, something I can't even imagine, you know, like with the breakup of a marriage, like out of nowhere. Like at least my marriage, we went to, I don't know how many therapists. We tried. And, you know, that's another thing. Like, at least try, people. Some people just literally just, boom, slap you and walk away.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's focus back on like the letting go, because, as hard as it is, we could kind of preach this all day as like, if you're a listener, please don't ghost people. Please have a respectful conversation.
Right.
But at the end of the day, people just aren't. A lot of people aren't. So what do we do when we're like victims of those situations? Like, how do we let go of things that
we
we're
podcast about it?
Yeah, well, we do. So let's talk about it right now. So how we let go. Okay. I want to start by just saying one thing, and this is really important for getting unstuck and letting go, is that you don't have to go towards something to leave something behind. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is really important. You don't have to go towards something to leave something behind. A lot of people say, well, I can't get out of my relationship unless I have something lined up. Maybe a job because of money and all, but just think about it in general. You can leave something or unstick yourself from something that isn't good for you without knowing what's even coming next.
Right.
That's true bravery, right?
Right.
And so if you keep that at the forefront of your mind, right, that's like a philosophy of what letting go. It's easier to let go because you're not constantly looking for something to replace it. You're actually just saying, this isn't what I want. And
there's also that philosophy that, Mel Robbins talks about, which people have made spoofs on, which are hilarious. Let them. And, I thought about that. Let them. Let her. She wants to hurt me and kick me to the curb. Let her. I'm not chasing. And I don't know if that's what the dynamic some people want to create, or this person in particular want to create, but I'm not going to do it. I will sit here and cry in my house by myself or talk to myself or whatever. I'm not chasing because I don't want to be put through that again. And let them. I think that's the whole thing of Mel Robbins. Let them. Let them. If that's good, that's what they're going to do, let them. I mean, there's nothing you can do anyway. So that's a reflection on their own behavior and the way they show up in the world. And that does help. I mean, it helps to think of it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. It does. And, part of that too, that philosophy is, what she talks about particularly in her podcast about this is this idea is that people are who they are. And so, the let them theory is kind of like this behavior. They're going to do what they're going to do, but also accepting that they're going to do what they're going to do, which is also different, right? Like this idea of this is for the situation you're in. This is just how this woman showed up in the world with you right now. It is. So whether this is who she is in general, that she's going through something, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The idea is just let her be who she is right now and make sure that whatever those behaviors are not impacting or hurting you longer than they need to.
Right.
In this situation. And that's hard. So how do you let them, right? How do you back off? How do you get them out of your head? I
mean, it's like they say like Buddhism and all that is just, it's like work, right? A relationship work. You just, you have to just constantly remind yourself. So I think we talked about this in season 1 also, when you start to have thoughts, right? So you're thinking, oh my God, I miss this person so much. Instead think, gosh, that person really treated me like crap.
Right.
So every time you start to miss them, you say, well, they did this, or this person just completely kicked you to the curb. This person completely ghosted you. And so change the narrative. Stop with but I miss them so much, or I miss her voice, or I miss seeing her face on FaceTime or whatever. No, every time I start to think that now, change my thoughts.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too, is like we get wrapped up in nostalgia. Like the further away we get from something, the more like we can have a tendency to look back on it with fondness. And it's like, if you really, really remember what happened, that's not how this went down. And so keeping your thoughts balanced is really, really important. Like what you're talking about.
It's countering your own thought process, right?
Right, exactly. And one of the things I used when I was trying to get through a healing process and get unstuck from a relationship one time was I used law of attraction. So what I did is instead of I did do the balanced thinking, which is important, right? It's like not getting sucked into nostalgia. But I also did this idea of if I start ruminating, I start speculating, I start trying to crack the code or whatever, and then it gets me riled up, it's not serving me. It's not, even if I did Sherlock Holmes my way to figure out what really happened, it's not going to make me feel better. So what I did
it's not going to bring that person back or that job back or whatever.
It might even hurt you even more.
Right.
And so what I did is I said, what kind of energy do I want to attract in my life? So that means that's the kind of energy I need to put out. So I would start thinking of good things I was looking forward to, things I was grateful for. And if I just replaced some of that negative thinking with those thoughts of gratitude and hope, I actually started feeling better. And then I just found that I just wasn't thinking about that stuff as much anymore. And the negative stuff, and I was just thinking about the positive stuff. And that really helped change my own self-narrative.
Well, okay, I kind of have a story that doesn't end well in that regard, because I went to play pickleball last night because I just felt ick being at home by myself. I was so distraught, and then I was feeling so anxious, and I couldn't even focus on my work. So I'm like, I'm just going to go play pickleball. And then I just sucked at pickleball. And I was like, this isn't helping. And everyone was being so nice to me. And they're like, look, we won, and look, everybody has an off day. And, it was nice because I saw friends, right? But it was like a double-edged sword because I wasn't playing well, because I was focused all in my mind. I could just think like, I'm not good enough to be with this person, or I'm not good enough for this, or, why doesn't anybody love me? That kind of thing. And it bled over into my pickleball, and it's like, well, that sucked because I didn't enjoy the pickleball that much. But then I enjoyed the connection of being with other people.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, on both fronts, right? The one is even subconsciously, and in your case, it was even consciously, where you were like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. And then you're going out and you're performing pickleball, and you're not good enough, and you're not worthy, whatever's happening on the court last night. But, part of the reason you might have been called to go play pickleball was less to reinforce those thoughts. It was more to create connection with people, that there were people out there that were like, you know what, you are worthy, and we do love you, and we are glad that you're here. And so the bigger picture of that is that, not the thinking about it. But it also goes to show that thoughts can really impact our actions and our behaviors. So, you might think,
and it does help to like have people who understand. I talked to a male friend of mine, and he's like, because I know went through something similar, and he's like, people are trash. And then we like, yeah, people are trash. And then like, we both felt better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes it helps, when we were in the 80s, we would watch St. Elmo's Fire and cry and eat ice cream and, oh, that person's so awful. And, wallow in it together. And sometimes the wallowing, but literally we wallowed. He said people are trash. We fist bumped, and that was it. And then I thought, you know what? He's an attractive, nice guy. And he also thinks he's getting the same treatment, right? I mean, I had the same thing with a young kid in his 20s. So I think, again, connecting that way, like talking. And then it's like, okay, I just have to be grateful. So yeah, this lady kicked me to the curb, and then 2 hours later and a day later, I have an 18-year-old Burmese boy messaging me how much he misses me. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I wrote back to him.
Because you met him in Thailand, right?
Yeah. Like, yeah, he and I worked in the kitchen together, and we worked together for hours and hours every day. And he was going out to a birthday party because it was nighttime in Thailand. And this morning I said, I missed you guys so much, and it didn't even feel like work when I was there. And now I'm home alone, working at home alone. And I think like you also have to look at your life. Like, is that what you want? Do I like to work at home alone? No. But do I like being home for my dogs? Yeah. But while I'm doing that, it's like, look at my job. Is this what I want for my job? And we can go back to the job, because I did just sign a new contract with my firm to do something radically different than I was doing before in the same field. But that's going to which is going to bring me a lot more happiness. But yeah, would I like to go to an office maybe and see more people? Maybe, maybe not. But because I am at home and I work at home, I make sure now I'm hiking with you in the morning, like pretty much every morning, right? I'm making plans to go play pickleball. Like, because I am at home and I am an extrovert, and when I work at home, it makes me feel sad. You know what I mean? Like, I love my house. I love my house. This is my favorite house of the 6 houses I've owned. But I'm like, the dogs are sleeping, right? They're sound asleep. And like, who am I? You know what I mean? Or do I want to be in a job where I'm more social? Like when I was a police officer, I got in a car and I drove around and I talked to whoever I wanted to talk to on the street. And that filled so many things for me, And so when I go out in public now, wherever I am, I meet somebody. you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am, and I like it, and it makes me feel better. Like meeting that girl this morning on the hill. I mean, that was so great. That
Mm-hmm.
is how I like to be, you know? And that's
Yep.
not usual for us, because usually you and I are so like rah, 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 talking, looking down. I mean, you stopped to talk to that one girl who was struggling, which led us to meet this other girl. And it was great, you know, because we ended up probably really helping both of them, actually. The one was so grateful to us for getting to the top, and that other girl like turned around and stuck with the whole situation. And why? It turns out she's in the middle of this horrible divorce, and we could actually help her. I mean, how weird.
I know, right?
How
Well, I
weird.
mean,
She's already listening to the podcast, you know?
I know.
It's already
I
helping
know.
her. I
Well,
mean, it was meant to be. She needed us.
yes. And I think when you're talking about that kind of thing, I mean, that was a pretty cool morning. I was so excited
Yeah.
about this morning is, part of also this kind of letting go is if you remember what we had been talking about, pretty much 90% of that entire walk this morning was about your situation with the dating situation. And it was kind of we're getting riled up. And then we came across this woman we had just barely made it on our way down, who was really struggling to get to the top and just said, I don't think I can make it. And we decided to walk with her. And guess what we stopped doing? We stopped talking about the dating situation, and we focused on helping her and encouraging her. And we finally made it to the top, slow going, but she got to the top and she was so proud of herself. And that other woman that we met went with us. And then on the way down, guess what we didn't talk about? The dating situation. And so there's this idea of like the law, like using this kind of law of attraction. We had this moment where we could connect with this woman to help her get up the hill, and our positive vibes came out to her. And all of a sudden that other lady seemed to be really attracted to wanting to hang out with us. And so when we're talking about letting it go, is sometimes just shifting our energy, right? Shifting our focus, shifting our gratitude, because we didn't talk about that entire situation. I don't know.
We attracted
that wonderful.
I did tell her on the way down.
I mean, you told her for like 2 seconds, but most of the way down was not that. Right. And it was kind of like the old Tracy had come back for a minute, because you were like fired up and excited and talking about stuff with her. And you've been sort of down and out the last 3 days. And it was like, wow, this lit your fire. And so sometimes when we're like talking about letting things go, we sometimes just have to shift our energy and find ways to help. This morning we helped people, we distracted ourselves, and we made a new connection. And all three of those things were so useful in thinking about your situation, I think. It gave you.
I think so. Helping somebody else, right? That's the thing. I think for me in particular, and that's what I preach to people, is if you're feeling down, if you're so sad, then go and find a way to help. And I tried that after that other devastating breakup, and it was like to do something that just didn't work for me. And so it didn't help. And so it's like this, where we're just out and about, we're talking, we're getting physical exercise. And then I thought, you know what, maybe I'm going to not even wait till September to go back to Thailand. Maybe I'll just go back sooner. Maybe I need it, because for me, being there and being at the sanctuary that I go to, like the physical labor that I'm doing and then the connection. And that's what I thought, like, how can an 18-year-old Burmese refugee boy who works in the kitchen with me care so much about me, right? We barely can speak. We speak a little bit in English together. He really cares, like, and I care about him. And like that in this society that we're living in here, we don't have the same connections, unless we're really deliberate and we find people who can match that. It's hard, right?
It is. It's really hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard on the front end when we're trying to meet people to connect with. It's hard on the back end when those connections don't work. A lot of things are hard. I even think if we were to translate this into even a work situation where people are feeling really stuck in their jobs and they're being mistreated, because let's be honest, really, people are not being treated very well in a lot of jobs these days. And they have to stay because they're beholden to health insurance. Let's just be straight up honest.
Yeah.
And people feel really stuck and they feel like they have no control. And in some cases they have very little, right? Because of, but at the same time, where can we learn how to cope with that, right? Maybe we can't let go of the job right away, but can we let go of the feelings that the job elicits? Are there ways to shift those? I know someone who wasn't really, really excited about her job at all. Felt really, it was always up in the air. And what she would do is she would go do a lot of volunteer work. And she said that just kept her grounded. And so she could sustain staying with her job. And then her job eventually got much better. She got into a better position. And had she not kind of kind of stayed through that difficult time where she felt stuck, by changing her attitude, she would never have had the actual professional opportunity that emerged. I mean, this is a perfect example for you. You sort of had a period of time where you're like, oh my gosh, I do not want to do this. And you felt very stuck. But part of it was staying stuck for a strategy, right? Like you let go of the feelings of being stuck and said, I don't want this. And all of a sudden, guess what? All this stuff came into your life and you have a new job, really.
Right. With the same firm that I love. And
exactly.
You know, my therapist said is that firm was super loving, like a loving family. And they said, okay, this is not working. This part's not working for you, but we love you and we want to keep you there. And I had a meeting with another person at the firm and she's like, I've always been your biggest cheerleader. I'm so happy to have you here. And it turns out everybody in the firm knew the problems that I was having, which was interesting to me. It's like, what do you people talk like, I guess in their meetings, but like, so people were already brainstorming how to keep me there. And now I'm right at the cusp of everything that I want, which is why also for me to be stuck about this woman is like, gosh, I was on the cusp of everything being great. But again, we go back to Coach Dorothy and it's like your life is the Sunday and that person who comes in, I don't care how much you love them, they can only be a cherry on top. They can only make your life better because, you know, when I met her, I said, you're not going to do anything to ruin my life. You're not going to, you know, and I see you're already trying to push me away to do this. You've said you've had these experiences. I'm going to be happy. Okay. I'm temporarily sad, right? But while I'm sad, I'm happy. And yes, I'm getting everything that I want in my life. I mean, pretty much.
Well, yeah, but shifting your thinking, right? You are getting everything you want because guess what? The universe delivered to you a very clear message that this was not the person. And I know you're disappointed because you wanted it to be, but it wasn't. And so you are getting everything you want. You're getting a fresh, clean slate for that person to come into your life who would not have been able to come in had you been caught up in something that wasn't the right path.
I know my psychic said that it's my soulmate's coming in October, November of this 2025. So we'll see how that, I would like to put that on the record so we can see how that pans out. But it's hard. I do think it's really hard for people to see that. And it's hard for me to see it. And people say to you, well, this wasn't the right person for you. You know, the universe showed you, the universe, you know, changed it. And I guess that's what we have to do. It's the work of Buddhism. It's a work of trusting the universe, that the universe does have our best interest at heart. And then you have to say, well, why did I encounter this person just to have this incredibly painful experience?
Yeah, but you've already deconstructed some of that. You already know why you came across this person. So,
but like everybody's got to do that work. I mean,
everybody does.
And here I'm saying like, it is so painful. And in a month I'll say, you know what? I actually appreciate that experience because it really helped me to see this or helped me to delineate this is what I want. So yes, it really hurt. It hurts now, but I can say, let me try and see what was in that situation. What was I supposed to learn? And turn that into a learning experience.
Exactly. And sometimes we can't even do that until we're like way out from the experience. Like it's hard to do it sometimes while you're in it because you're just dealing with it. It's painful. And feel the pain. Work through that stuff. Feel it, feel it. Don't ignore it. Don't push it down. Don't justify it, whatever. Just move through it and then deconstruct it a little bit. Like what was I supposed to learn? What can I do differently moving forward? You know, I mean, it's kind of a post-mortem of it, but I mean, so but the problem is we keep talking about this idea of being stuck and not letting go is if you sit in that place of pain and hurt and anger and mistrust or whatever comes up for people in this place, and you sit there and sit there and sit there, you don't get to the point at which you get to deconstruct it and learn and move on. And that's where it becomes very harmful, right? Like you remember, I mean, after my mom died, my whole world collapsed. Like that was the most devastating thing that's ever happened in my life.
Well, your emotional world collapsed, but your world didn't collapse and you held it together like nobody I've ever seen, right? Well, you didn't let your bills go unpaid. I mean, I wouldn't say that way. You're emotionally.
My emotional world collapsed. I mean, my heart broke in ways I can't even describe. And I sat with that pain, and it took about 9 months of just sheer heart-wrenching pain that most of you all didn't get to see. It was bouts of crying in the car. It was a lot of stuff. But I remember thinking like, I don't want to feel this way every day. My mom wouldn't want me to feel this way every day. Like I can't, just because I stop crying doesn't mean I forget about her. And
Right.
I had to get myself out of that. What would my mom want me to do? My mom would want me to go on a pretty cool hike. My mom would want me to go do this. My mom would want me to make sure I stayed close with my brother. And so I did all those things, right? And I started moving out of that heavy grief, because I have seen people who have had a devastating loss like that, and they
and they can't move out of it.
They're stuck. Right. They're stuck, and you have to, and just letting go of the pain. I had to tell myself this: letting go of the pain of my mom's death was not letting go of my mom. And that was
that's very important. That's, again, grief versus tragedy, right? Or trauma, grief versus trauma. So you suffered a trauma because your mother was killed tragically, and you were involved in that. Not, you weren't the murderer, but the doctor was.
I was the witness.
The doctor was the murderer. You were part of it. You were making decisions. You were in the hospital every day making decisions about something that was so painful, right? And that you had no business taking guilt on for, or responsibility. You didn't create that situation, but you were suddenly thrust into being this, right? And so, like, that's the other thing people have to look at. Did I create the situation? Or is this just something that in life, this is what we have to endure? And so if there's a trauma, the trauma of your mom, the way that your mom died, has to be separated from the grief of your mom dying. And I also do believe that when people die on this earth, the people who are left alive, they feel so much guilt, just even a regular death, right? That they're like, how would this person feel if they knew that they were dead and I was just partying, or I was living it up, right? And so when people party after someone dies, they usually do it in this awful, awful self-destructive way. And, like, I want to change that narrative too. Like, that person is gone. This is nobody's fault unless it was the murderer. You know what I mean? Like, this is part of being human. People are going to leave us, and we have to find a way to say, okay, I am still here. I'm still here, and I have to live on this earth, and I can't live here in misery. What is the point of that? It's too hard.
I can't carry this pain forever. I can't carry the pain.
It's too much.
And so you have to forgive yourself if you feel like you're responsible. You have to find new ways of doing things. You have to find things, being, grateful for what you do have. I mean, like I've said over and over again, is, my brother and I have been close for many years since we both had children, but after my mom's death, we became incredibly close, much closer. And I'm grateful for that. So, I'm not saying, oh, good, I'm glad my mom died so my brother and I could have a really good relationship. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, at the same time, there's, like, a lot of gratitude to be had. And that helps me move through and get unstuck from this. I can let go of that situation. See, this is the thing. I'm letting go, again, of the hurt. I'm letting go of the pain, the situation, the trauma, and the grief. But I'm not letting go of my mom. I'm thinking of memories with her. And we do that sometimes, where we just sort of, like we talk about the nostalgia or whatever it is, and we just hold on so tightly. And really the thing is that life is moving forward, and we have to, at some point, figure out a way to get on board and move forward, or else we
you said, like, deal with the guilt, right? So I think, first of all, people need to, like, say, do I actually have to carry guilt for this? Like, we don't have to carry guilt for the fact that people die.
Right.
This is part of being a human being. People are going to die. Like, that's the thing, we can't feel guilt for something we didn't do.
Right.
I felt horribly guilty after I left the sanctuary in September. I left on September 30th. There was horrific flooding in October 4th that killed individuals I loved very much. And, like, I felt so awful, but I didn't do it. I didn't create that.
I know.
Why should I feel guilty? And then I felt guilty that I wasn't there to help. But then I did what I could. I raised money. I raised awareness. I did those things, right? But I can't live with that guilt. And same as this dating situation. I was willing to talk. I was willing to have conversation. That person isn't. I can't carry that. I have to let that go.
You cannot. No, it's just going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you and hurt you and hurt you. And we don't have the capacity to carry around that much hurt. If we carried around all the hurt that has been inflicted on us our entire lives, we would be just buried.
Which, like, some people are. I think that's why we have incels. I think we have so many angry people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They're hurt. They don't know how to channel it.
Get over it. Exactly.
They can't process it. They're resentful. They're angry all the time. And you've even said to me, like, people have done some horrible things to you. How have you been able to move on and not be so angry at them? And I said, the anger is only going to hurt me. right? Like, I'm not going to live my life like that. I just won't live my life full of anger, hatred, blame. I don't. I get acutely mad or acutely feel something about the situation. I work through it and then I move on. Right. Because it's not going to serve me. And you just have to understand that this world it's a tough place and we are going to get hurt. No matter how much you prevent yourself, you can put all the walls up that you want. You can avoid people if you want. You can do all that. You're still probably going to get hurt.
Right. It's part of being human.
Yes.
I think we just have to accept it. We're going to be hurt.
Exactly. And if you own that and you just say that these situations are really tough, people are going to hurt me, or I'm going to get fired from a job, or I'm going to be stuck in a situation I don't want to be in and that's going to hurt me. I'm going to feel trapped in this and that's going to hurt me. Yes. That's what life is like. But then you have the power to get yourself untrapped. You have the power to get yourself unstuck emotionally, mentally, maybe not physically or legally, but emotionally and mentally. It's up to you. And if you can't figure out ways to do it, like we've talked about, everything from meditation to gratitude to law of attraction to balanced thinking to self-talk to all of this stuff that we've been sharing, then go to a therapist, go to a psychic. Yeah. I went to my astrologer this week.
Go to all of them.
Or last week I went to see Bethany, our astrologer that we have on, and she helped me through some things too. Like, go to wherever you know will work for you, right?
Yes.
Help you let it go.
Absolutely.
And what works for one person might not work for another. So if it for me, like running up a mountain actually clears my head, gives me some clarity. Right? We've talked about that. And that clarity allows me to let things go because I see it in much better perspective than if I'm just I'm just seething about something.
100%.
So what is your final word on letting it go? If you were to tell our listeners one piece of advice, what would you say?
Do the work. Put the work in. Feel the pain. Don't deny the pain. I'm not embarrassed to tell everybody that I got hurt by somebody. Mm-hmm. I just accept it. It's part of my history now. I got really hurt by someone. I verbalize it. I feel it, and then I won't feel it anymore. I mean, 2 years ago, I was a mess. I could care less about that person now. Even my voice just changed. You want to hurt me? That's on you.
Right. Exactly.
So what else?
Feel it. Make it work through it. And then if you feel like you're stuck in your stuck process,
get help.
Then get some help.
Yeah.
Get some help.
Be it a psychic, be it a therapist, be it an astrologer, be it your friend who will talk and talk and talk and talk.
Right.
Exactly. Use your lifelines. I mean, wasn't there a show where you could have a lifeline?
Yeah.
What was that show?
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
And you called like a friend who was like sitting at home and didn't know you were going to call. Obviously, they must have had them pre-ready. But yeah, like that kind of thing, right? Use your lifelines.
Exactly.
We're all in this together. We're all going to feel pain, and we would be much better off if we could be truly authentic and vulnerable. And I think we wouldn't have so many damaged people creating so much suffering for others who are intentionally taking their rage out on other people. Like, we don't need to do that. And I'm so sad, but I would never take my rage out on somebody else,
Yep, exactly.
And that only would create more suffering. So heal thyself.
I couldn't agree more. That's a good one to end on. Heal thyself. All right. Well, thank you, Tracy, for this honest and vulnerable conversation today. Really talking about some things that I know were tough for both of us to talk about. But
yeah, and it helped us to get unstuck more. And the next thing we're going to be talking about is manifesting, which will be awesome. Because once you move yourself out of being unstuck, then you start to think about what you'd like for your life.
Exactly. Love that. All right. Well, to all of our listeners out there, until our next episode, go out there and rock those relationships. If you liked what you heard, check out our show notes for resources from today's episode. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram under Rock That Relationship, and go to our website at rockthatrelationship.com for updated episodes and more great information.
Thanks for listening. Now go rock those relationships.